Welcome. This is Keep an Open Mind with Alexa Ani-East, your favorite mental health therapist and professional yapper by nature. This is the first episode. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Thank you for being here. So I'm just going to jump into it because I got a lot to say. We got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to address. Because the world, we struggling, man. We are struggling. And so I'm here to help you, guide you, provide some insight, provide some advice, and honestly, just to get some things off of my chest as well. Because as a therapist, I am there to primarily listen and not necessarily give my advice. Because as a therapist, we're supposed to advise and not give advice, not put our own opinions onto our clients. And so I just wanted to create this space just as a safe space for myself, but also just a safe space for other people to learn, to interact, and to engage. Honestly, authentically, yeah, all the things. Today, we're going to be exploring something that I see in my therapy sessions, on social media, but also in myself. Yeah, I'm calling myself out right now because, yeah, this is definitely about me and so many other people that I've come across, again, whether it be in therapy sessions or just on social media, and a lot of conversations that are being had. And I wanted to join in on that and just share my piece on it. So yeah, there have been moments in my life where I've been like, yeah, I'm setting boundaries because I am the boundary queen. Okay. And what I really was doing was being very avoidant and thinking that I was doing something that was a part of my healing journey. And it actually did the actual opposite. It made situations worse for me. So I want to delve into that today. So let's actually define what healing versus isolation looks like. When it comes to healing, there are three words that really resonate with me. And that's nurturing, recharging, and emotionally processing. Those are the top three for me that come to mind. When you think of nurturing, you're really caring about your emotional needs. You're not denying yourself. You're actually tapping into that part of yourself. And you're not punishing yourself for the emotions that you're experiencing. That's really key. Not punishing yourself, not feeling shame, not feeling guilt. With recharging, you're really taking that time out to rest with intention. You're not just zoning out or being mindless in your healing. It's really a restorative process when you're being intentional about recharging. Emotionally processing, that's when you're reflecting. So you're journaling about it, you're talking about it with someone else, with yourself. I mean, I talk to myself all the time because sometimes you have to get it out of your mind and either put it out on paper or just put it out into the atmosphere, into the world, because a lot of the times if we don't, we can really ruminate, and that can lead to a lot of intrusive thoughts, irrational fears, and that we don't want, because that keeps us in this cycle that obviously isn't working and obviously isn't leading us to the healing that we're wanting or that we're expecting. Essentially, you're facing them, not avoiding them when it comes to your emotions. And that's what emotional processing looks like. I want you to remember this. Healing is active, not passive. It requires you to be or to have presence with your emotions, not just to simply escape them. Remember that. Be intentional about that. What isolation looks like is more so of numbing yourself, withdrawing, avoidance. When it comes to numbing, that can look like overeating, doom scrolling, binge watching, not to enjoy, but to essentially avoid feeling anything. So we go down this deep dive on social media, or we binge watch these TV shows that have 8 seasons in like 2 days. We think, oh, that's just me. I just love watching TV, or I just love rewatching TV shows. Yeah, on one hand, rewatching TV shows helps those who struggle with anxiety, because I do that as well. I do love to rewatch a lot of shows. But when it becomes a thing of where you're shutting out the world and the only thing you're focused on is scrolling for hours or watching a TV show for hours, not getting out of bed, not getting off of the couch. And this is something that you do day in or day out or like every weekend, instead of actually spending that time with yourself and being intentional with yourself. And again, I use the word intentional a lot when I'm explaining things like this, because we can't, again, just mindlessly go throughout our life and expect to reach certain goals or to heal certain parts of ourselves if we're not actually doing the work. Yes, relaxing, chilling, watching TV is cool and all, but we have to limit ourselves, because then again, we are living in someone else's world. We're living up in a made-up world, or we're living in someone else's reality that is not our own. And then we began fantasizing or becoming too enthralled in certain things. And not to go on like a little tangent, but I noticed that with a lot of people who watch these shows, especially like the YA shows, because those are like really popular now, and I've always loved YA shows, but we get so invested in these shows and these characters that when we don't get the right ending, or if the story isn't fleshed out a certain way, or something doesn't happen, or if we're disappointed in something, we are going off on social media as if this is our life, as if this is something that has happened to us. And what that is letting me know is that, okay, we aren't in tune with ourselves, or we're distracting ourselves from something. Because if you're allowing yourself to get so upset about something that isn't based in reality, then we have to check back in with ourselves, because what in the entirety is going on? Again, I'm not judging, because your girl done or felt some of this stuff as well. And I'm like, yo, this is not my life. Like, why am I feeling so invested in this thing? And so that's when you have to kind of take a step back and ask yourself the hard questions. What's going on? What did this trigger? What am I actually feeling? Sometimes when we don't know what we're feeling, I always tell my clients, hey, look at your feelings wheel. I love a good detailed feelings wheel. The one that I use is a 3-tier feelings wheel, and it gets more specific as you go along. So if you're in tier 1, which the feeling may be sadness, or I feel sad, then you go to tier 2 and it gets a little bit more specific. Then you go to tier 3 and then it gets even more specific, and then you're able to more so pinpoint what you're actually feeling. When it comes to withdrawing, what that can look like is simply cutting off people without any explanation. So we disappear instead of actually communicating what we're feeling and what actually is going on. And again, just because we communicate with somebody and we talk through our emotions with somebody does not mean that we're excusing their behavior or what happened. We're just addressing it. Like, we're being assertive with how we're communicating. And also doesn't mean that we're going to be cool after this, or we're going to go back to how things were. Sometimes some relationships, need to just have an end, but we have to have certain conversations. We can't go throughout life just withdrawing and disappearing on people, because not every person deserves that. It's not, or I would say it's not called for in every situation. And so we have to stop applying it to every situation. When it comes to avoidance, we delay having those hard conversations, whether it's a fear of conflict. A lot of people like to avoid conflict because it's uncomfortable for them, or whether it's that fear of being perceived. It's like, I don't want to be perceived. I don't want to be viewed a certain type of way. So I'm just going to avoid this hard conversation so that I don't have to put myself in that position. 1, to be uncomfortable, or 2, to be looked at in a certain way. Just a little self-disclosure here as well with me. I have been wanting to have a podcast and a YouTube channel and all the things for so long, but I have hidden myself for a very long time because I have a fear, or had a fear of being perceived. What are they going to think about me? What's their opinion going to be about me? And I just was like, I can't keep going down this rabbit hole of questioning myself because of what I fear others may think of me. Those who know me, who truly know me, know my heart, know my intentions, and know who I am. And they celebrate me all the time. And so if there are any naysayers or people who may have negative things to say, I can't let that take up space in my brain because it's not productive for me. And a lot of the times we try to cater to everybody else outside of ourselves. And it's like we can't be everything for everyone. It's not possible because one person may want you to be this way, right? And then someone else may look at that and be like, yeah, no, that ain't it. Like, why are you doing that? Like, what's going on? And they may perceive you in a negative light, whereas somebody else may perceive you in a positive light. So then with that, what are we going to do? Are we then going to try to cater to this other person? That gets exhausting, very exhausting. And we're not trying to do that. Isolation often feels safe because there's no risk. But then on the other hand, there's also no growth with that as well. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're navigating through your life and you feel the urge to isolate yourself. What is that fear? What are we avoiding? What are we withdrawing from? So a lot of the times we confuse healing and isolation for 3 reasons. I love things in threes. 1 is having a trauma response. 2 is having people-pleasing burnout, but also social media trends. So with a trauma response, that equates to someone like shutting down. So a lot of the times when someone experiences trauma, their reaction is to freeze. So there is the fight, flight, freeze response. And a lot of the times people may freeze. Your body is telling you that we got to shut everything down. We out of service. Like, this ain't it. We got to survive. And so with that, solitude becomes a necessity. It becomes a default because connection feels a little or sometimes a lot too risky. We can't risk it. Sometimes isolation feels like peace. Like, yeah, this is it. This is what I've always wanted. Like, ain't nobody bothering me. Ain't nobody in my bubble. None of that. It feels safe. But it's safety without real connection. And we need connection to thrive as humans. We need people. And even saying need for a lot of people makes them cringe because it's like, I don't need anyone. But no, we weren't meant to go or be in this world without true connection. When you have people pleaser burnout, that's me. I am a recovering people pleaser. You can be perceived as the fixer, or you are the fixer. You always showing up. You always trying to help somebody's life. Like, Iyanla fixed my life. That's who we are. And you're seen as the strong friend. But then there comes a point where you're like, okay, yeah, like, I'm over this. I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm exhausted. I have nothing left to give. So I'm just out of here. Like, I'm cutting folks off. And we think it's this boundary that we're setting for ourselves because, yeah, no, like, I'm not a people pleaser anymore. I've healed from this. But then we go from one extreme to the next extreme. That is the issue. And honestly, that's an issue for a lot of situations. I can really apply that to a lot of situations where we go from one extreme to the other extreme thinking that's the solution. But it's like, yeah, no, like, we have to find that middle ground. And what that middle ground looks like is a little bit of both. And I think because we're trying to run away from something, we think we have to get as far away from that as possible to be successful in healing or in changing our ways, but that's not the answer. And so when it comes to this isolation piece, when it comes to people pleasing, we think we're doing something grand, but we're really hurting ourselves. So when you finally stop showing up for others, we feel that it's healing, but it's really exhaustion. You're crashing. And that's the difference. So social media trends. Although I love social media and it has its benefits, it also has its downsides, man. Platforms are full of advice. And I mean, I'm giving y'all advice. But when it comes to this healing and isolation stuff, we got folks saying, cut them off, protect your peace, no new friends. What? No. It's okay to have new friends. It's okay to have a conversation and not cut somebody off immediately because we got triggered. It's okay to have those tough conversations. It's okay to let that guard down some. Healing doesn't look like building walls around yourself or ghosting people left and right because you got triggered. Sometimes we get triggered and it wasn't even intentional on the other person's part. They may have not known that was a trigger of yours. So why are we looking at them as the enemy? They're not always the enemy. Sometimes we just have to communicate so that that person can understand. Because a lot of people will listen and actually actively listen to understand what you're feeling and what you're thinking and to validate you and your feelings and your thoughts. When we thought that they wouldn't even understand or they wouldn't try, or it's like, ooh, no, they do get me. They are trying. But if I would have ghosted them, cut them off, I would have never realized that. And so, again, we have this narrative that we always, create for ourselves around every situation. But it's like, no, we have to stop looking at every situation or every person as being the same as what we've gone through in the past. We can't put that onto somebody else. We can't project that onto other people. And we do that a lot. We do. Healing is about building boundaries with grace, not building a fence around yourself because of fear. And again, I'm speaking to myself when I'm saying these things too, because I am a recovering people pleaser. I am someone who is healing from abandonment and rejection issues that stem from childhood. And so a lot of the times I have cocooned myself or I have isolated myself to protect myself, but I still yearned for connection. And so I'm like, this is not actually working. I still want to connect with people. I still want to connect with others. And I was missing out on so many different opportunities and things because of my own fear and me getting in the way of myself and my destiny. And so I'm actively working on these things. When I'm triggered, I talk through it. I'm a therapist who has a therapist. That's so important for me. And so, you have to hold yourself accountable. If there's one thing that I have learned as a woman, as a human, as a therapist, is that I am responsible for my trauma. Like, I cannot put this on anyone else now that I am an adult, because they cannot come in and swoop and heal me, and neither should they. No one should come in and heal me, or I should not feel the need that someone needs to come in and heal me. I don't need anyone to save me. I need to save myself. I need to save myself so that I can feel worthy. Because a lot of the times I self-sabotaged or I didn't feel worthy because of the things that I went through, or because of that abandonment or rejection piece. It's like, connection is scary. Connection means I'm going to get hurt. That's the core belief that I had about connecting with others. I wanted it, but then I also feared it at the same time. And so it was like this push-pull, like, I want it, I have it. Okay, this is scary. Like, let me back away. Let me figure out a way to self-sabotage this, and not intentionally, let's self-sabotage, but this thing of I have to protect myself. I have to be the one in control. But it's like, girl, you ain't in control. What is actually happening right now? You are living in a la la land. And so I had to snap out of that. And I have worked with a few therapists and seen a few therapists. And there's one therapist who I was with for 3 years who really helped me through that. And it just shifted so much of my brain chemistry. And I was able to heal from a lot of things. Honestly, I became a therapist to be for others what I wanted for myself when I was younger. And now that I look at it, I really feel that I also wanted or desired to become a therapist because I wanted to heal myself. I was screaming for help in so many different ways, and I felt like I was screaming into the abyss, or I will say I thought I was screaming into the abyss, but I was still hiding from those around me who actually truly cared about me and would have tried to help me. But I was resistant, or I was fearful, or again, I was hiding. And so I became what I needed for myself because I was the only one who I guess I trusted at the time, if I could even call that trust. And so, of course, I'm a therapist now, and I realize these things, and I'm like, yeah, man, girl, like, what were you doing? But I will say I still have a passion for what I do. I still love talking with people. I still love, advising people, helping people to realize certain things about themselves, having that increased awareness, and also be able to make those changes in real time because of that increased awareness. So yeah. Okay, so now that we have that background knowledge and information, we had that, again, increased awareness. Now we need to figure out, okay, like, what are those action steps? Like, what are those things that I need to do to help change this? Because a lot of the times it's like, okay, like, now I know, but girl, like, what do I do with this? Like, how do I change? And so we have to reframe that narrative. That can look like in real time is, instead of saying, I don't need people, saying, I love you, but I just need time to recharge. Or I need rest, but not disconnection. Or you can say, my healing doesn't mean I'm shutting you out. It just means I need to tune in with myself right now. We have to find, obviously, the wordage that works best for us. But it's really like having grace with yourself, not feeling guilty for needing that time to yourself, but then also being able to assertively communicate this with your loved ones. So we're not being passive or passive aggressive. We're not being aggressive, because sometimes we feel like we have to go like quick to anger to like get our point across if someone doesn't necessarily understand, or if we get to do something that's uncomfortable, we immediately go to defense. And a lot of time when we go into defense or we're defensive, it comes off as anger. That's not really what we're feeling. It's just coming off like that to protect yourself. Another thing that you can do is create a connection container. And essentially what that can look like is having weekly check-ins or having low effort hangouts with your friends. With the weekly check-ins, we can just, call, send a text, letting people know, like, I'm here, I still love you, especially if we're not in the space to go out and do something, we're still making that connection with our loved ones. And we already told them, like, hey, like, I'm just kind of in a space where I just would need to work on myself, not shutting you out. I just need to be, again, in tune with myself. And so when we do those weekly check-ins, it's letting them know, like, okay, like, I know they're still working on themselves and trying to heal and need this time, but I'm still also important because they reached out to me. And that's setting a boundary with intention, but also, again, not isolating yourself to where those connections that you've had, you just disappear on. When you have those weekly check-ins, it's something that you're actually able to do and not feel like it's taking too much out of yourself, and also makes that other person feel like they are still of importance. You don't have to have a long conversation on the phone, 2 hours, you don't have to be, sending paragraph texts, things like that, but just checking in, making sure that they're good. And you can always end the message with, I love you. I care about you. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being here with me during this time, or being here for me during this time. And then with the low effort hangouts, I mean, that can be whatever you're comfortable with. That can be going to the park. That can be going to a coffee shop. That can be, honestly, just inviting a friend over if you feel safer in your space. It could be just going for a little walk or whatever. Again, something that you feel that is doable for you, that isn't this huge obligation to where you have to spend the whole day, or you have to go out of town, or you have to go to a space where it's overstimulating, or it doesn't feel like it's not conducive to your healing. Like, still be true to yourself. Still be true to yourself. That is important. Healing includes choosing connections that not only feel safe, but also feel intentional. I hope you gained a lot of awareness, a lot of tips, a lot of insight in today's session. Ooh, child, not today's session. Yeah, man, therapist brain never turns off. But no, I want you to do some self-reflection. I have a couple of prompts that I want you to kind of like sit with and think about. You can either talk about this with a friend, a family member, you can journal this. I want you to ask yourself, when I'm withdrawing, what am I actually protecting myself from? Just sit with that and actually truly like ask yourself, what am I trying to protect myself from when I'm withdrawing? The last prompt I have for you is, what would healing with others look like instead of healing away from them? And remember to keep an open mind when you're answering these questions. Again, this is for you. You don't have to necessarily share this with anyone. So always be open and honest with yourself. Reflect honestly without judgment of self. Look back into like those childhood experiences and those emotions that come up from that. Notice patterns from childhood. Were you taught to have these emotions, or that emotions equal burden? Were you taught to withdraw, to avoid? Because a lot of the times these behaviors are also learned. And then ask yourself, what version of connection feels authentic and nourishing to me right now? Remember, healing doesn't mean having to isolate yourself. It means being able to feel safe with yourself and also feeling safe with others. You're allowed to need space, but we're also wired to have connection as well. Okay, so we're done with today's podcast. Episode 1 in the books. Yes. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment below on just what you've learned, what insight you gained from this episode today. If you're listening on any of the platforms where you're not able to get the visual, check me out on Instagram. My Instagram is keepandopenmind_. And then my TikTok is Alexa_Williams_KAOM. Yeah, let me know. I want to know what you're feeling, what came up for you. Invite others in your life to also reflect. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. All right, y'all. Bye.